Check out how Bitcoin changed after it was split in half. People who don't know, Bitcoins are made by answering very hard mathematical puzzles that cost a lot of time, effort, and money. The halving is where this happens. And when you figure it out, you get some Bitcoin as a prize. That prize is also cut in half about every 4 years. This is known as a half, which are Warren Buffett's famous finance company and Barrick Gold shares, which are a big mining company. Both lost a lot of value, and this was not a good thing. Berkshire Hathaway shares, which usually sold for more than $622,000, fell sharply to just $0.185, 5 of the bug. This mistake in price was later fixed. In reaction to this, Edward Snowden went on Twitter and said, "Bitcoin fixes this." Snowden's short comment shows that he strongly believes that decentralized financial systems are better than standard centralized exchanges. Bitcoin works on a peer-to-peer network without a central authority because it is a decentralized digital currency. Traditional stock exchanges have centralized control, which can lead to systemic risks, like the recent NEICZ glitch. This framework is very different from those. Bitcoin is designed to be secure, transparent, and unchangeable. This makes it less likely that something terrible will happen because of technology problems or mistakes made by a central authority. Snowden's support for Bitcoin in this situation shows how resistant the cryptocurrency is to the problems that can happen with standard financial systems. By saying that Bitcoin can fix this, Snowden suggests that the fact that Bitcoin is decentralized might keep the financial system from experiencing similar problems, making it a more reliable option than standard trading platforms. Notably, Bitcoin has had an uptime of 99.98% since it began, which is an incredibly high level of dependability that shows how strong its blockchain technology is. In the early days of Bitcoin, there have only been 2 events that stand out. The first was the value overflow incident in 2010, when a bug made billions of BTC appear out of thin air. The second was a brief blockchain fork in 2013 that was caused by an upgrade to software that didn't work with the blockchain. Both problems were quickly fixed by the core developers, which made Bitcoin even more reliable. This week I saw someone who made me think of all of these things. I want to give this person a. I would say that was the first person in Silicon Valley to use Bitcoin. He was the one who told me about it in 2010. I remember that he told me the story again. We were at Warren's Hummus, and he said he's from Argentina. Since he's Greek, I'm going to try to sound like him. Bitcoin must be bought. I heard the story. It made me fall in love. I believe I called my family office. I want to buy 1 million of these. He was like, or worth $1 million. He asked, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "No, that's just a small starter. The main meal is coming up." Anyway, he has done an amazing job of knowing Bitcoin and using it for his own gain. I want to thank him for making me think about this. But when I saw him a few days ago, he told me that I should really look at how Bitcoin has changed since it was split in half. So I was very interested. So I had Quinton, someone on my team, put this together. Let's go to the first page, Nick. What makes this interesting then? Here is a quick look at the Bitcoin price for you. In other words, there have been 2 rounds of halving. I also asked him to look at how the prices changed 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and 18 months after the haircut. You can see that at first, when Bitcoin is halved, people are kind of rethinking what's going on and trying to figure it out. This is pretty much what I would say happens in the first month and the first 3 months as well. There are, however, crazy price increases that happen between 6 months and 1 year and 18 months after these events. That's what this page shows. 18 months after the first split, the price of Bitcoin went back up 45 times. It came back almost 28 times after the second half. And after the third half, it returned almost 8 times as much, which is a huge return in such a short time. Next page. Thus, if you plot that, this is what it starts to show how this price changed after each of these rounds of halving. What's so cool about that? Besides the price halving, which is interesting, if past is any indication, we should also see some price growth. Of course, the other thing that has happened is that Bitcoin is now used for business. We talked about this as my big prediction for 2024. These ETFs will really help Bitcoin cross the chasm and have its center key moment, right? In other words, these are just numbers when you use them. They are not at all guesses. I'd like to add one more thing to that. We use these to figure out how much Bitcoin is worth. On the next page, you can see what might happen if you just average the last few cycles, since the first one was so extreme. You can also see that you're only doing cycles 2 and 3 here, just to be clear. In this case, only the means of cycles 2 and 3. You start to see some deep respect for what they do. When I asked Wences about this, he said that many countries will never seriously consider Bitcoin, even if they support it. This makes a lot of sense to me. The US might be one of those, but more and more countries are going to have two currencies. This person will first look at their own cash and then at Bitcoin. They will say that these two things are needed. One, when you're buying and selling items and services every day. A second time is when you need to buy something solid that will have value over time. This is when you'll use something like Bitcoin. I also think that's a very strong idea. And this price chart shows that if this thing starts to appreciate at these rates, it will fully replace gold and become a way to buy and sell hard assets. When you add that to the worry that some people have about the dollar losing value, I think you start to see some really interesting possibilities.